This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
I was abused. All my athletics earnings were taken away, and I was 1 month pregnant.
If it's not working, walk away. It's okay to walk away because you're going to start over again. And life continues. It's not a death sentence to walk away.
Just days after the former World Championship bronze medalist Agnes Tirop was murdered, more Kenyan female athletes are opening up about their own experiences with gender-based violence in sports. This week, Sports Scene hears from Kenyan athletes and looks at how the violence threatens to tear apart the sporting world. Hello, welcome to your weekly sports program that brings you all the sporting news and reviews from an African perspective. We will highlight the thrill of victory while also showing you the agony of defeat. I'm Richard Nta, Nairobi. This is Sports Scene. Put on your seatbelts, buckle up, get ready, get ready. Let's get started. Here's what's coming up in the show. Africa's premier women's club competition enters the home stretch in Egypt. The Kenya ice hockey team is back on the streets. We'll tell you why. Welcome in. Just like that, Sports Scene is on the air. We'll get to those other stories in just a moment, but first, we've got to have a real conversation about gender-based violence. Barely a month after the death of former World Championship bronze medalist Agnes Tirop, two more Kenyan athletes have opened up about their own experiences with domestic violence. The two women say Agnes's murder was a wake-up call for them and are encouraging other athletes in similar situations to speak up about gender-based violence in sports. CGTN Sadiq Shaban has more.
The tragic death of 25-year-old Agnes Tirop, the former Kenyan Olympian and World Championship bronze medalist in October 2021, prompted a rare moment of self-reflection from some of our friends who attended the burial.
Now we are going to raise our alarm.
We should not keep quiet anymore. I think Agnes kept quiet for long. If she'd spoken up earlier, she'd have been assisted in time.
The case of Trop is not the only case we have seen in Kenya, but we have to look for so many cases because there are so many cases outside there. We don't know. Ladies are keeping quiet, all men are keeping quiet, so it's high time to get out and work with one voice so that the government can get us what we are talking about.
And not a moment too soon. Ruth Bosibori Nyang'ao, former African Games 3,000 meter steeplechase, says she can no longer remain silent.
I've been keeping quiet, but due to Agnes's death, I don't think that I can keep quiet anymore because I'm suffering. I also fear maybe my life is in danger.
The former Olympian says she was forced to retire from athletics after going broke just 3 years into her athletics career.
And all my sweat, it was taken by somebody who is well known, and I don't have anything at the moment. I'm struggling with life.
Mourners at Agnes Tirop's funeral urged young girls and women to speak up against outdated cultural practices. It's the reason for days after burying her best friend, another Kenyan athlete, Joan Chelimo, has also opted to end her silence.
I was abused. All my athletics earnings were taken away, and I was 1 month pregnant, but I left. So I just want to say, if people will learn how to leave toxic relationship and insecure partners, they can still make it like as I am today. The world knows me as Joan Chelimo, but they don't know my story.
It's the first time in weeks that she's training again. She was among the first people to Agnes Tirop's murder scene.
The society feels like it is important for people to get married, and I am so saddened that, that she had to go through that. She had to die because of insecure partner. a jealous one. Yeah. Sorry.
Gender experts in Kenya say many young athletes fear speaking up for fear of retribution from the society.
Mothers have to stop telling their girls to persevere in marriages. You do not persevere. We talk about these issues, we understand. If it's not working, walk away. It's okay to walk away because you're going to start over again.
Viola Lagat and others are now calling for a paradigm shift, urging all stakeholders in the sport to come together to address the root cause of the conflict, particularly among Kenyan athletes.
Money is an issue in relationships with athletes. So it's something that is going to be there with us for a long time, because as long as we're getting this money, there's going to be issues.
The money that those athletes are getting, it should go, and it is a must that it goes to their bank account direct, okay? It cannot go to a spouse, to a relative, to parents. It has to go unless they are minor.
The National Athletics Federation says it will now do more to reach out to troubled athletes, while the government of Kenya has vowed to find justice for the slain athlete. The brutal murder of Kenyan elite athlete Agnes Tirop has lifted the lead on the situation of domestic and gender-based violence, particularly within the Kenyan athletics community. Our athletes say they have been suffering in silence for a long time due to the absence of support structures in place to help them deal with personal issues. They are now speaking up and reaching out to communities and authorities, urging them to pay a closer attention to their general well-being and mental health. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN, in Nairobi, Kenya.
Well, disgraced Paralympian Oscar Pistorius is eligible for parole after serving half of his sentence for murder. The 34-year-old who gunned down his fiancée Riva Steenkamp in 2013 is now bidding to be released and to serve the rest of his sentence under house arrest. CGTN's CS Duplessis has more.
It remains one of the biggest stories in sport. Oscar Pistorius, global superstar, sentenced to 13 years and 5 months in jail for murder. 6 years later, the man known as the Blade Runner is eligible for parole.
Obviously, that will happen with the intervention of the members of the Department of Correctional Services. So they are only sitting on certain times of the year, obviously not on a weekly basis. So first and foremost is to arrange for a meeting for the parole board to sit and to attend to his application, probably in conjunction with a number of others that will also be attended to on the same day.
The 34-year-old needs to show remorse and in so doing acknowledge and take responsibility for his actions through a process called restorative justice before being considered for parole. That requires a face-to-face meeting with Riva Steenkamp's family, who have been in contact with the authorities. But this meeting, should it happen, will only be a part of the bigger process before he can make his case to the parole board.
Although it's a preliminary requirement to at least attempt to have such a dialogue, it can surely not be the final answer, because in a lot of instances you'll typically find that the victim's family is not interested at all. In actual fact, to cut a long story short, it will be to his benefit, but it's not the single and most important aspect in the consideration.
It could take weeks or even months before the former track star gets a date before the parole board. But the general feeling is that he will be granted parole in due course with stringent conditions.
Well, once again, he is eligible to be considered for parole. There's no guarantee that he will receive parole, and maybe not even on his first attempt. That's the first aspect. The second aspect, in my mind, I do think he would qualify for parole, and I do think he is going to be granted parole eventually. I have not considered any evidence to the contrary which persuades me that he is not a candidate to be considered favorably for parole.
It has been a remarkable fall from grace for the man who once captured the imagination of the world. Muscular at the peak of his career and with millions of dollars in endorsements. He now sits in a cell depleted of the muscle that saw him reach the able-bodied Olympics in 2012, reportedly with a long beard, cigarette in hand, and waiting for his chance to return to some sort of normality after a moment in time that he will regret forever. CS Duplessis, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
One of the crucial parts of the parole process is for Oscar Pistorius to have a successful dialogue with the victim's parents. Speaking to the media, the Steenkamp's lawyer said that Reva's parents, June and Barry Steenkamp, are very emotional and traumatized that they have to meet Pistorius face to face.
At this point in time, they're taking it one step at a time and one day at a time. They're focusing now on, they know that a victim offender dialogue is going to take place. So they're dealing with a lot of emotions. One can understand objectively. They lost their daughter. She will never come back. And now they have to face her perpetrator face to face. It's different seeing a picture or being at court, seeing the person there, you know, the accused there. This is going to be a face-to-face meeting. So yes, it's going to be traumatic for them. It's going to be dramatic. And they are dealing with quite a lot of emotions.
Let's discuss more of the issues of gender-based violence in sports with Mbuyiselo Botha, a gender activist and one of the founders of the Men's Forum in South Africa. Mbuyiselo, welcome to Sports Scene. Welcome to the program. Let's start in South Africa. How much insight on gender-based violence did the South African public get on the matter of Oscar Pistorius?
Well, thank you, Richard, and good evening to you and your viewers. I think the Oscar Pistorius matter, it brought into sharp focus how women are unsafe in their homes, are unsafe in the workplace, are unsafe in all spaces. Richard, all what it also shows is that with Oscar, you can't say that there are certain types of men, or there are certain class of men, or there's a certain race that can or has a propensity to be violent. What it showed, Richard, is that violence happens everywhere. Violence happens in all relationships. And we began to grapple with this as South Africans, understanding that at the core of violence, Richard, is about power. It's about control. Yeah.
Well, Mbuyiselo, violence and being unsafe are operative words. In Kenya here, female athletes are reaching out for help. What can sports federations do to get to the bottom of this menace in sports?
Well, Richard, what sports bodies can do is to be conscious that it can't be business as usual. It's important for sports bodies to begin to create safe spaces for dialogue. I mean, recently in our country, once we were in the World Cup cricket, I mean, we had a young man who had refused to take a knee in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter. So, Richard, I'm using this analogy to make the point. And what's my point? My point is that these dialogues Richard, are in fact emotionally excruciating. So it's important for sports bodies to realize that, or to be conscious that their members are part and parcel of this society. I mean, the males that play rugby, that play football, that play, I mean, that run, do all sorts of sports. They are part and parcel, or they are a creation of a society that has raised them to believe in the superiority of us as males, Richard. So we need to get involved in a process of an open, honest dialogue, acknowledging that it can't be easy. These are difficult discussions.
Difficult indeed. Mbuyiselo, so many questions, so little time. I can go on and on, but we have to stop here. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Mbuyiselo Botha, much appreciated. You are watching Sports Scene. The action continues with much more interesting stories coming your way in just a moment. Here's what's ahead. We return to and head to Egypt for the African Women's Champions League.
Africa is a continent of diversity. with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Aden, Djibouti, Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg,
Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. We're just getting started. Let's talk a bit of football. 4 of the best African women's football clubs have secured their tickets to the semifinal stage scheduled for Monday in Egypt. The contest will pit teams from North, West, and South Africa after representatives from East Africa were knocked out during the quarterfinals. CGTN's Adela Murui has more. Let's take a look.
For the first time, Africa gets to know its top 4 women football clubs. All seats for the first Women CAF Champions League Golden Square have been filled. The South African team Mamelodi Sundowns topped Group B with 7 points, followed by the Moroccan Royal Armed Forces. And in Group A, Hasaka's Ladies for Ghana advances as the best performing team in the competition so far.
وهكساس الغيني ده كان مفاجأة البطولة كلها.
Hasakas was the surprise team in the competition. They were the top club in the group stage and advanced strongly to the semi-finals. We expected to see Sundowns dominate to the competition, and the Moroccan team would come next. We have seen strong physical and technical performance during the competition, better than what we had hoped for.
فأعتقد إن سانداونز هيكون أقرب للظفر باللقب الأول.
Wadi Degla, the host champions, exited the competition with 4 points. It tied with Group A semi-finalists Malabo Kings at 4 points, but goal difference was in favor of the Equatorial Guinean champions.
متوقع إن وادي دجلة مش هيكمل.
It was expected that Wadi Degla wouldn't advance, but the club left a positive mark in the competition. The club is starting to get African exposure, and it's introducing Egypt's name in international events. The club was the only team to win 2 Women of the Match awards in 2 consecutive games during the competition.
Africa's first Women Champions League continues, shadowed by the CAF Qatar 2022 World Cup qualifiers taking place this week. The competition lacks fans' attention, who left almost all matches deserted. The semi-finals will take place on Monday. The one-leg stage will nominate 2 clubs in the first African Women Champions League final, and they will clash on a never-seen-before trophy this Thursday. Adel Mahwi, CGTN, Cairo.
And staying in Egypt, Kenyan side Vihiga Queens were just a game away to getting to the first ever CAF Women's Champions League knockout stage. The East African representatives were knocked out by River Angels of Nigeria, losing 4-0. Now, despite the loss, the Kenyan side has inspired many by just making it to the continental competition. CGTN's Wanja Mungai has more.
Vihiga Queens started their campaign on a low, losing to Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa 1-0. In the second Group B match, the Kenyan ladies revived their hopes of qualifying with a 2-0 win over Moroccan champions Esfar. However, all came crashing down on the final group match, where Nigeria's River Angels used the second half to thrash Vihiga Queens 4-0, bundling them out of the competition. Vihiga Queens knockout means that the only Eastern Africa representation at the tournament has been eliminated. Despite their early exit, the team has left important memories on the first competition of its kind in Africa.
The girls have already made their mark. Even if they are bowing out, remember, at least they picked up a win against ASFAR of Morocco, the Moroccan champions. At least they picked up a win, and that alone is already a statement by itself. Remember, Morocco is a country that has the best facilities when it comes to football in Africa. Yes, and we're talking about some girls from a village here in Kenya. So you can imagine that is already a message sent back to the young ladies here at home.
The introduction of Women's Champions League seems to be a good step towards promoting women's sport in Africa, and Sean believes this has been the right step forward.
One thing I like about CAF, what they did is introduce this CAF Champions League, and now the women have something to play for. All the women, like now in East Africa, that is under CECAFA, they have something to play for. Before, it just be winning the title or just play and then you go back home. But right now, everyone wants to win their own title so that they can come together and play for that CECAFA sport.
Kenya's Vihiga Queens will be hoping to make it to next year's competition, where they can improve on their performance and maybe even win the tournament. For now, however, the four-time Kenya champions will have to spectate the knockout stage from the comfort of their homes. Wanja Mungai, CGTN.
The action continues on sports scenes, much more ahead, including from the ice rink to the streets, the story of the Kenya ice hockey team.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
We've come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. Thanks for staying with us. Now, the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on sports continue to be felt worldwide. In Kenya, the national ice hockey team hasn't managed to train on ice for almost 2 years. The team has had to go back to street hockey to keep fit and continue growing the game. CGTN's Mohammed Abubakar reports.
Before COVID-19 struck, this was home to Kenya's national ice hockey team. But it's now been almost 2 years since the ice rink closed down due to the pandemic. This prompted for a new inline roller hockey competition to keep the players fit and active.
Most of the players who are playing at for the national team, the ice hockey team, they all started from here. So the transition from street hockey to ice hockey. So currently we don't have the ice rink is still down, not yet open. So we are just here to keep the momentum going, to keep the guys in shape. By the time the ice rink will be reopened, we'll be good to go.
The competition has been taking place at Nairobi's popular recreational roller skating spot. The tournament has even drawn amateur skaters to try out the game.
You know, when you become a good skater, just skating around becomes boring. So you need something a bit challenging. So if you, for most of them, decided to take a challenge to just more than skating. So you know, moving that hockey stick and the ball, it's a skill. So for them, it's a way of advancing into a new level.
The inaugural Inline Roller Hockey League hopes to continue growing and become an annual event. This will allow growth for the sport as the national ice hockey team looks to scout for more talent.
This tournament is very beneficial to the ice hockey team because it's shown that even without the ice rink, right now because of COVID, we are still playing, we are still practicing. In future, we hope that we will also play ice hockey on the ice rink with the international teams, even roller hockey with the international teams, so that the sport grows in Kenya and internationally, like we become recognized and are stamped in the world map.
One positive thing we've learned through this pandemic, we've had a chance through street hockey. We've recruited a lot of players. And another thing, we have a dream of having a Kenya Ice Hockey League, whereby we'll have different teams coming together to play in a league, whereby at the end of it, we'll be selecting players from different teams to play for the Ice Lions, which is a national team.
Mohamed Abubakar, CGTN, Nairobi.
The Tanzania Swimming Association says it is using the upcoming Africa Swimming Confederation Zone 3 swimming competition to assert the country's growing dominance in the East and Horn of Africa region. The 6th edition of the competition will take place in Uganda this December and will bring together swimmers from 10 countries. CGTN's Isaac Lukando has more.
Young Tanzanian swimmers are preparing hard for this year's African Swimming Confederation Zone 3 competition. Tanzania's Swimming Association believes performing well at the competition will help the country become a force to reckon with on the African continent. Peter Itatiro is one of several ambitious youngsters who are hoping to use the competition as a launchpad to greater things.
Any athlete's dream is to reach the Olympics, to get to the world stage. And so the stage is to that there's first getting recognized by FINA, then at least getting a scholarship, and then as my academic progress continues, my swimming progress continues with it, and if I'm lucky enough, getting to the Olympics on the world stage.
Those in charge of preparing the country's swim team are confident of success. They believe intensive practice and a string of good performances in the past will be enough to make a difference.
I can say that Tanzania is one of the strong teams in this zone because ever since the competition began, we have won a trophy and we've always managed to get at least first, second or third place. And considering our performance at the continental level, we're in a good position.
At the Continental Swimming Championships earlier this year, Tanzania placed 8th out of a total of 42 African countries, well ahead of its neighbors Kenya, Uganda and Burundi. Colin Saliboko, who did well there, will represent the country at the FINA World Swimming Championships to be held in December this year.
Tanzanian swimmers first became visible in international events at the 2008 Summer Olympics. Before that, the country's athletes largely featured in field and track events. The Tanzanian Swimming Association believes that doing well at international swim events like Kana will elevate the status of the sport in the country.
The Tanzania Swimming Association says while it has started receiving funding from the government, its money challenges are still significant. It argues that training swimmers from neighboring countries is a testament to what it can do with proper funding.
It's a good experience because there's lots of amazing swimmers in Tanzania. They're really fast, their technique is good. The coaches are very good here.
Tanzania's long-term goals include doing well at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. The country's swimming association believes such an achievement would help Tanzania come closer to being known as a swimming nation. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Well, that's it for this edition of Sports Scene. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again same time next week. Take care.